E na ki no malu I kalani malu e hoe. E o ulu mai ana o laka I kona mauka o mako noa. E ulu kini o ke akua. Ulu kane me kanaloa. Ulu o ia laukoa me ka ie. Mai ano I koukua hu. E ia ka veila. E vai e ola. E ola no
Kalaeloa, like many places throughout the Hawaiian Islands, is a place with traditions and cultural attachments that span generations, from Hawaiian antiquity to the modern day. Kalaeloa is literally translated as the distant point. This is a geographical description of the land formation, as seen when walking the ancient foot trail across the Ewa Plain between the Waianae and Kona districts of Oahu. In 2002, the Hawaii State Legislature transferred the redevelopment responsibility for Kalaeloa from the Naval Air Station Barbers Point Redevelopment Commission to the Hawaii Community Development Authority, or HCDA. The HCDA formed the Kalaeloa Archaeological and Cultural Hui in 2009. The Hui was established as an advisory group to assist the Kalaeloa cultural specialists and the HCDA with the protection of the archaeological, cultural sites and endangered species within the district. Currently, the Hui is made up of the Kalaeloa cultural specialists and representatives from the Ahahui Sivila Hawaii o Kapolei and the Ho'akalei Cultural Foundation. The Hui realized it would take the talents, knowledge, and dedication of many entities to develop the Kalaeloa Heritage Park, and it was suggested that a nonprofit entity be formed to take up this momentous task.
This piece of property, the 77 acres, was identified for future reuse as a heritage park. So in the conveyance from the Navy to the state, it was conveyed with that notion that the future of this parcel would be as a heritage park. So it was encumbered in that sense. So about a year and a half ago, the Hawaii Community Development Authority approached the Kapolei Hawaiian Civic Club and asked the Civic Club if they would work in partnership with the state in building the Heritage Park. The Civic Club established a 501c3 nonprofit and named the Kalaeloa Heritage and Legacy Foundation. The ancient Hawaiian name for this particular place is called Kanehili, and this is where Kane brought forth the water from the sinkholes with the strike of his ko'oko'o. This piece of property we're standing on right now is site number 1753. 1753 has 11 documented sites. The Heritage Park is both a preservation of a number of cultural sites and its interpretive past. This is the first archaeological structure within our tour. This is identified in the archaeological survey as a rectangular enclosure or a permanent house site. Several unique aspects with respect to this archaeological site is, first of all, it's made out of coral. Nowhere else in the Hawaiian Islands you're going to find cultural sites made of coral, only within this geographical area. The second most unique aspect with respect to this archaeological site is the fact that it's not Hawaiian. Hawaiian dry stacking, they would take flat stones and stack them on top of each other and lock it at the corners. Tahitian dry stacking, they would take upright stones and fill them. So those walls are those stones on the far end of the hale is characteristic of a Tahitian style of dry stacking. The structure we're looking at here is identified in the Archaeological Survey as an agricultural sinkhole. The tea leaf that you see in the sinkhole was identified in the first Archaeological Survey back in the 1960s, to give you a sense on how long it's been here. When you pass fresh water over coral, limestone, it dissolves the coral. So it creates a whole series of caves and karsts. It carries nutrients in the same manner. As the water is traveling from the higher elevation to the lower elevation, it's carrying all those nutrients. And when the water hits the flatland, it deposits all that soil. Water is traveling in the same manner as a traditional river, however, you cannot see it. Right where we're standing on the banks of a river that cannot be seen. The soil marks the bank of the river. The center of the river is marked by no soil and the presence of rock. We're at the site of a structure that's identified in the Archaeological Survey as a water sinkhole. We've actually had, if you can imagine, we actually walked inside of a river to get to this structure. The water that was in this sinkhole was used to drink and to take a bath in. So the water was clean, which also means that the water had to be moving. They would not have taken a bath or drank standing water. This is actually the location of the center of the river. If you just think about what a traditional river looks like, the cleanest water is in the center where the water is moving fast. There's no soil. The rushing water removes all the soil and debris. All you have is boulders at the bottom of the river. This trail is built in a Tahitian manner and supported by all the upright stones. This trail was first identified by Lieutenant Malden, who was a map maker on board George Vancouver's ship back in the 1790s, when Vancouver and Malden were charting the shorelines of the island of Oahu and also the other islands. It was at that time he named the Hawaiian Islands the Sandwich Islands. He identifies this trail. This trail originates at a place called Kualaka'i along the shoreline. And this trail actually goes 4 miles, and it connects this region with Kalo'i Gulch and also Honouliuli Gulch. These 3 structures are identified as temporary house sites. More specifically in the survey, they're identified as L-shaped and C-shaped structures. It's important to remember that for the most part, even the permanent house sites, these people actually lived outdoors. The only time that they would actually live in the hale is during periods of inclement weather or when there was a need for them to be within a house site. When the people from the mountains would come to the sea to gather ocean resources, because of the distances they had to walk, more likely than not they stayed in this area for a while, which gave these 2 different groups an opportunity to get to know each other and establish a relationship. And because they were living in this area for a period of time, and because the people who lived here on a permanent basis felt comfortable with them, also needing their resources from Mauka, they allowed them to actually live amongst them to the point where they were even allowed to build temporary structures such as L-shaped and C-shaped structures. This particular plane was identified as a torpedo bomber. So it was a TBM-3Q. So it was a plane that was actually used during World War II as a torpedo bomber, but subsequent to World War II, it was converted to a sub-chaser. What we want to be able to do is that we want to be able to integrate the history of the military with the Heritage Park. So we have help in researching this crash, we have the names of the 3 people that died in this crash. So there's efforts to actually recover as much information to create a storyboard and actually build a memorial in respect of the 3 guys that actually died here. This is identified as a burial aho, simply because when the archaeologists did a subsurface excavation, took all these stones from the aho, set it on the side, he found a full set of human remains just below that first layer of stones. So when he discovered that they were at Ivikupuna, what he did was that he just put back 1 layer of stones. So it's identified as a burial aho. Our mana'o behind that is that more likely than not that this person was probably a very respected person to be buried inside a structure that was used for prayers. This last structure is identified in the archaeological survey as a religious structure. There's several aspects of this structure that is considered religious in nature. One is this large stone at the entrance of this first hole. Originally that stone would have been standing up. So it's identified as a ki'ai or ki'i, as a guardian over the entrance to that hole. The second feature that makes it religious, this is a religious structure. You can see the upright stone just beneath the kiawe tree. Directly in front, laying down, is the ki'ai or the ki'i that would have been standing up originally. That would have served as a guardian over that elevated platform. Right in the middle where you see the cone standing, in the survey that's identified as an elevated platform or a place where whoever was facilitating prayer would have stood.
Ka pai a mākou I pili nei. Ho amo ke aka o honu ule ule makikua. A pai ke kula o kula kai. E ahu I pū me nau iwi o aloha e. Aloha e. Aloha e.